We have two tragic stories this morning, both that play into an important idea that many on the left would sacrifice you for their personal goals, for their political goals. The first story is about Black Lives Matter. A man was shot and killed by police, and BLM is protesting. Except this isn't the story of a man who was driving his car and was pulled over and then the cops just shot him. It's not the story of a man who was unarmed but running. It's not the story of a man who was chewing drugs and was unarmed, but when they tried to detain him, fought back and then was subsequently killed. It's not even the story about a guy who was put into like a chokehold. This is a story about a man who unloaded into the home of a young mother with her children who thought they were going to die. The man was then in a standoff for 6 hours with police, and they took him out with snipers. This guy nearly killed some innocent people. So Black Lives Matter, they chalked his name on the ground, they held a memorial, and it's rather remarkable. Now, of course, I'm saddened when anybody dies. I don't like war for that reason. But at a certain point, a sane person recognizes this dude was trying to kill innocent people. Well, the activists say, yes, but he was having a mental health episode. Well, yeah. Most people who take weapons and go trying to kill people are having mental health episodes. Which brings me to the next story. A masked gunman in Indiana shooting at people in Greenwood. Was this guy having a mental health episode? Is BLM going to come out and defend this man? Apparently they are. Not in the way you'd think. You see, this guy was stopped when a man, I believe with a concealed carry, ended the shooter. I mean, it sucks. This stuff shouldn't happen. Everybody recognizes that. But there is reality. You know, I started thinking about this because people who grow up in cities don't understand the horrifying unfairness of reality. That nature isn't fair. It cares only to survive. Now, in cities, we've created these spheres of security where we think we can control the unfairness that is reality, but you can't. And so these things happen. For people who grew up sheltered in their bubble, away from real strife or conflict, they think this shouldn't happen and they can stop it. For those who live out in the middle of nowhere, who live out in the country and rural areas, you realize that as much as you don't want to kill that bear, when the bear is threatening your family, you do what you have to do. That when you get, say, groundhogs even, or raccoons, this is the crazy thing, because you talked, out where we are, you talk to locals and they're like, look, nobody wants to kill the cute little raccoon. It's the law, though. The law states you have to. Why? Because they will kill you. They're a rabies vector. And so you see people, they look at these things and they're like, this poor man, it shouldn't have happened. How do we stop this? And it's like, bro, the guy was going to kill this innocent woman and her kids. The police tried not to kill him. But this is the reality of Black Lives Matter and far left activists. They don't care. When it comes to this mass shooter, HECKLE Sundberg, it was just a mental health episode. When it comes to the other mass shooter, they're complaining that the guy who was armed was the problem, that it was illegal. He shouldn't have had that weapon. It's like arguing for what? The worst of it, the fundraisers for this guy. 20 years old, a brother, uncle, son, friend, talented artist, hilarious, energetic human. His life was taken too soon. He was killed in the morning of his mother's birthday. I'm sad that he died, man. But he was trying to kill people. He was a mass shooter. But this guy's fine? I'm sick of it, man. I am sick of the hypocrisy. Axios reports 4 days after Minneapolis police shot and killed Andrew HECKLE Sundberg. His family is asking police to answer key questions. Sundberg, 20, was shot and killed by two police snipers around 4:30 a.m. Thursday, July 14th, following a lengthy standoff at a Seward apartment. Police were called to the scene about 9:30 p.m. Wednesday after a neighbor reported that someone was firing a gun through her walls. Additional shots were fired as police arrived. Sundberg's family said he was experiencing a mental health crisis. So somebody who's experiencing a mental health crisis and trying to kill someone, you shouldn't stop them? That's insane to me. These people are insane. What exactly prompted snipers? We don't know. Who had set up across the street per a search warrant obtained by NPR News to fire? Video footage from body cameras has not been released. Attorneys for Sundberg's family said in a statement that they have been given very little information about why HECKLE's mental health crisis became a death sentence. Maybe it's because there's photos and videos of bullet holes riddling this young mother's home. Maybe it's because he was attempting to kill people. Yep. The statement claims the parents who were called to the scene to aid in negotiations were not allowed to do everything they could to save their son's life. Meanwhile, the neighbor whose apartment was shot into confronted activists over the weekend, saying Sundberg intentionally tried to kill her and her children. The State Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is continuing to investigate the shooting. Mom shot at by Heckel Sundberg expresses outrage. Family says both incidents deserve attention. Yeah. Arabella Yarbrough was cooking food for her children Wednesday when she says Heckel Sundberg fired bullets into their home, nearly hitting them. Police responded and helped Yarbrough escape when, according to police, Sundberg also fired at officers. That led to a 6-hour standoff outside the building that lasted until MPD snipers killed the 20-year-old early next morning. Quote, I literally had 5 minutes to live while he had 6 hours to choose life or death. The police stated they did not want to kill him, Yarbrough told Fox 9. She confronted activists at a protest for Sundberg and against police violence on Saturday. Yep. This video is gut-wrenching. It's horrifying. Let me play a little bit.
You guys are celebrating his life.
It was a terror. I'm sure it was a
This
terror.
is not okay.
You're alive. Shut up.
You're alive. Shut up, they scream at her.
Just let it go. Grief in silence. This is not okay. This is not a George Floyd situation. George Floyd was unarmed. He was unarmed.
You're alive. Sorry.
You're alive.
This is not okay. My kids have to deal with this and probably have a mental illness now because they almost lost their life. There's bullet holes in my kitchen
Not in
because
you,
he
though.
said.
Not in you, though. It's amazing. This woman's home, riddled with bullets, has BLM activists outside writing the name on the ground of the man who tried to kill her. She doesn't look like a white woman to me. So whose Black lives really matter? When it comes to a mass shooter, these people come out and say the police shouldn't have killed him. But what about this other story? 3 people were killed at a mall in Greenwood, Indiana, in a shooting that ended when an armed man fatally shot the gunman, city authorities said. 2 additional people were hospitalized in the shooting, which began when a man with a rifle and several magazines entered the mall's food court and started firing. Chief Jim Eisen of the Greenwood Police Department said the authorities did not indicate a motive for the shooting and did not identify the gunman. Oh. Was it a mental health issue? Was it? Are you going to defend the shooter? It's amazing. They are. They're actually coming out in defense of this guy. Not in the same way. Take a look at this tweet. Jack Posobiec says deleted. Shannon Watts, a U.S. senator, says enabling a civilian to access weapons of war and use them to kill 3 people and wound 3 others inside Greenwood Park Mall before another armed civilian opened fire on the gunman inside a crowded food court is a good outcome. Who said that? That's why she deleted it. But they're actually attacking people. There's one tweet where they're like, this man was illegally armed and he should not have been. It's like, okay, so the mass gunman should have been allowed to continue his rampage. It's remarkable, isn't it? Other mass shooters, what about them? There's the guy in, what was it? Was it Times Square? Or what? The guy said he wanted to kill everybody. No jail time. There's Kenosha. That's not terror. That was an accident. That was a vehicle that did it. This is why I say things like civil war, man. You know, maybe it's cliche. People are always like, oh, Tim's talking about it again. And it's just like, dude, yeah, I get it. You know, I think about like, I want to be wrong about all of that stuff. I just want none of that stuff to be true. But let me just, this is what I see. Okay. Help a single mother and gun violence survivor. So this is for Arabella Yarbrough, $46,849. When someone donated $5,000, When this went down, this fundraiser had like no money in it. And the mass shooter, he had like 10 grand. It was amazing. Granted, many people were outraged by this story, and now it's way inverted. The mother has 46K, and the mass shooter only has 20,000. GoFundMe is allowing a fundraiser for a mass shooter. The reason why I say mass shooter is because he unloaded a gun randomly into apartment buildings that had children and a woman in it. Now, of course, mass shooter is relatively vague. Typically, it's reserved for individuals who actually strike their targets. Okay, what I'm saying right now is someone who fires randomly into a group of people. But, when you want to talk about a mass shooting, there's different statistics and there's different requirements. Like some say it's when 4 people are shot at. Some say it's when 4 people are hit. Some say it's when 4 people die. Some say it's when 3 people die. This guy would have killed 3 people. He tried to. So yeah, this is a guy that needed to be stopped from taking lives. GoFundMe isn't supposed to allow this stuff to happen. Hey, take a look at Kyle Rittenhouse, who ran for his life. Isn't it amazing? No, seriously, let's bring that one up. Kyle Rittenhouse, in his own community, ran for his life. Someone fired a gun. He turned around. A guy tried taking his gun. He fired in self-defense. He ran to the police, and he was attacked, struck with a skateboard. Someone approached him with a I believe it was a Glock 17 handgun, and he fired only at those threatening him and fled to the police, turning himself in later when the police in Kenosha weren't listening to what he had to say. This guy, randomly, for no reason, tried killing a family. He's the one who gets a heartwarming press conference. He's the one who gets $20,000 raised for his family. And Kyle Rittenhouse survived. He survived, and they tried to destroy his life. In fact, in many ways, they did destroy his life, at least for a period. Because of people like you and me, however, we were willing to stand up for him because we knew the truth. And with respect to people like Destiny, who's a progressive left commentator, who outright said, I saw the video, clearest cut case of self-defense. Because people were willing to stand up for the truth, Kyle survived this. And he's making something of his life. Granted, his life's turned upside down from defending himself. This guy, Sundberg or whatever his name is, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Sundberg, granted, he did kill people, so in that regard. I'm sorry, he tried to kill people. Yikes. I mean, this is just the reality. Let me pull up these tweets. At the time, Minnesota Safety Alert said, here's a direct link to the fundraisers for his mom and her 2 kiddos. Previously, it was just 2 clicks deep in the thread, but putting it here so it's a single click. He points out here, the shooter's GoFundMe is 10 times greater than the victims. Isn't that amazing? I think because of this tweet, you ended up seeing the inversion. You ended up seeing the single mother actually start to get money, raise money from this. Let's talk about the mass shooting in Indiana and the good guy with a gun and why guns are good. Why I think people should have guns. So apparently they recently passed a law allowing people to I believe they signed constitutional carry. They say Mayor Mark Myers said late Sunday that the public faced no further threat and the police department was in control of the scene. I've been a police officer most of my life, he said in an interview. Still, this is incredibly shocking to not only me, but our entire community. Chief Eisen said at a news conference on Sunday that the local emergency call center began to receive calls about the shooting around 6 p.m. He said the threat ended when an armed passerby who had a handgun stopped the gunman. It appears that a good Samaritan that was armed observed the shooting in progress and shot the shooter. Mr. Eisen identified the passerby only as a 22-year-old man from Bartholomew County, about 35 miles south of the mall, adding that he was lawfully carrying a gun. In a statement, Mr. Myers praised the man's actions. Someone we are calling a good Samaritan was able to shoot the assailant and stop further bloodshed. I am grateful for his quick action and heroism in the situation. Chief Eisen had said that investigators and other personnel would not process the crime scene at the mall until a state bomb squad could determine whether a suspicious backpack that was left in the mall bathroom was dangerous. Late Sunday, he said that investigators had not found an explosive device and that they had cleared the backpack. The police said on Facebook that they were seeking witnesses to the shooting, which took place about 15 miles south of Indianapolis. The Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department said on Twitter that it was helping local authorities. A good guy with a gun. We need more of them. You see, there are people right now that are tweeting that this guy was illegally carrying. He wasn't. He was legally carrying. There are people claiming that it was bad no matter what. The fact that someone had to shoot him. How about no one gets guns? I just want to make sure, those people understand that killing people is illegal. Like, you're not allowed to do it. This guy did it anyway. So, like, you have a series of crimes that could be committed, right? You have the most egregious, taking a person's life. You then have walking past a sign saying, don't bring guns here. Pretty sure if you're intent on committing one of the most heinous crimes against humanity possible, which is literal murder, you're not going to be too worried about a sign. Right. I'll tell you something funny. Let me tell you something funny. I'm a skateboarder, right? They put up signs all the time saying no skateboarding. Y'all still do it. I can't tell you how many times I've been skateboarding at places with big no skateboarding signs. It's strange. The sign says you can't do it, but people do it anyway. My favorite thing is when you go somewhere where like you really can't skate and it says like no skateboarding, rollerblading, or biking or whatever. What I really love about those signs is that like you can scoot, like scooters became a big thing, and there's like no sign for scooters because the sign making culture has to catch up with what the kids are doing. But just think about that. Stew on that one for a few minutes. Go watch any skate video and watch skateboarders do one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. They do it all the time. Fight with security guards. They'll be skating. A security guard will be like, you got to leave. They'll be like, no, I won't do it. Dude, if you're skating, a security guard comes out and says, time to leave. It's time to leave. If you want to be polite and say, bro, let me get one more try. And they say, okay, fine. One more try. All right. They let you do it. If you say one more try and they say, no, you need to leave, you need to leave. There's a security guard who died from people fighting. It's stupid stuff. These skateboarders sharing these videos. But anyway, I digress. The point is, you think putting a sign up at a school that says no guns is going to stop someone who's intent on killing people, when a sign saying no skateboarding is not even going to stop somebody who wants to ride a board around that like does minor property damage. Oh, I know. Let me hear the triggering of the skateboarders, bro. When you wax up ledges and discolor them and then grind on them, you're screwing those ledges up for the people who work there. They don't like that. But, you know, the way skateboarders see it is like, so what? Who cares? So your the planter for your garden looks ugly now. Grinding on rails doesn't really do much. But yeah, if people like pay money to have their property look good. But the real issue with that stuff is insurance. You can't allow it on your property, otherwise you'll lose your insurance. So when the skateboarders show up, they have to tell you to leave, otherwise they could lose their insurance, and you got to have insurance. It's reality. But you get the point. I'll try to put it to the beginning. That BLM is defending this guy who tried to kill this woman and her children. Isn't that crazy? This guy was a potential mass shooter. I mean, he tried to be a mass shooter, right? If he had actually succeeded, what would have happened? I was talking about this the other day. We were in conversation about murder versus attempted murder, and I was like, the weird thing is, I shouldn't say funny because it's not appropriate. Like the weird thing is, if someone like murders someone and the intent is clear, like let's say like a dude cheats on his wife, or like a wife cheats on, a dude cheats on his wife, and the wife catches him in the act, and she says, you did this to me, and then kills them both. She committed a passion murder. We know what her motivation was. She's likely not going to kill other people because she killed them, right? And it's bad. It's a heinous crime, and she gets like life in prison. But then you'll get someone who like attempts the murder, and there's like a lesser sentence. The reason why I find that crazy is it's like, dude, they're going to try and do it again. Like if someone's like planning to kill somebody and then they don't do it, and you're like, okay, well, we'll only give you 5 years for the attempt. And it's like, okay, so in 5 years they can get out and try it again? Like their target is still alive. You're going to hope they change their mind? Like attempted murder should be charged the same. I'm sure in most places it gets close to it, but like the person who didn't complete it is the person who should be locked up forever. Anyway, I digress. I'm not surprised is what we're seeing. Even the woman screaming that you should let it be and leave, because people are outside of her house protesting, defending the guy who tried to kill her. She still defends George Floyd. She still defends these other people. Now, some of these people deserve defending. There was that guy who was sleeping. He was like sleeping in an apartment. I think it was his friend's apartment, and he was armed, and he was legally allowed to be armed. And the cops storm in, kick the sofa. He sits up from under the blanket holding a gun, so they kill him. You're allowed to have guns, man. Yeah, that guy should be defended. Not this dude. So here's what we see. Two big stories over the weekend, and they both suck, right? But if you are of the mind that you think the law is going to control this, you are wrong. It's already illegal to shoot people. So there you go. Some guy is going to commit a crime. You're allowed to have guns. Somebody who wants to kill somebody is going to get a gun. It's going to be a 3D printed gun. It's going to be an at-home made gun. You can't stop this stuff. And the technology just keeps advancing. It's becoming easier and easier, and the spread of knowledge makes it easier and easier. You can go out in the woods, basically, and make black powder relatively easily. Scary thought. But it's not even about that. It's about, we're just at this point with the expansion of knowledge and technology. I mean, it's going to be crazy when someone gets a magnetron or like makes like a powerful directed energy weapon and then starts just frying people. It'll be really strange to see. But the thing about this stuff is you've heard about the Havana effect, I think it's called, where people claim to like be hit by some kind of energy weapon. What would happen? You could, so there's something called like, what is it called? Active denial system. Microwaves blasted at people, making them feel like they're on fire. Look, people are using rifles in these things because they hear it on the TV and the news. It's a culture thing. If they actually knew anything about guns, they'd be using very different weapons. That's a scary thought. Technology is advancing, and it keeps advancing. There's solid-state batteries on the way that can hold way more energy. And what that means for directed energy weapons is going to get crazy. Imagine a railgun. This is the crazy thing. So, like, a railgun uses a sequence of magnets to propel a slug at a rapid rate of speed, and it is silent and deadly. And what happens when someone walks in with something that looks strange in a backpack and no one can tell what it is, and then it's a railgun? I don't know, man. It's like, how do you stop crazy people from being crazy? I don't know. But when they do, the police, they got to stop them. A good guy with a gun did the right thing. He stopped them. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.